Hello and welcome everyone to our CX Network webinar for today, which is the first installment of the three-part webinar series, Your Time to Shine. So today's session is focusing on maximizing the effectiveness of customer service teams. So I'm your host for today, Shanice Henry, Editor-in-Chief of CX Network. So customer success managers, as we all know, play a vital part of brands building strong relationships with customers, solving problems and growing engagements over time. But unfortunately, the reality is that customer service teams battle with limited capacity to serve customers. And these capacity challenges create fragmented customer experiences, poor renewal rates, and can really sort of hinder adoption rates, limit the ability to scale and sometimes lead into unexpected churn on the customer side. But fortunately, there is some tech available to assist, and AI solutions like intelligent virtual assistants can reduce these capacity burdens that we've just mentioned by automating repetitive tasks. So these systems can rapidly respond to large volumes of customers simultaneously, which of course shrinks the strain on your human agents, fast tracks resolution times. It can also give that 24/7 access that a lot of customers require, and it can reduce cost to serve levels as well. So a lot of good things. So today we've got a couple of experts here with us to really dive into how your brands can tap into the benefits of augmenting the power of customer success teams with conversational AI to boost customer loyalty and drive productivity as well. So before I introduce our experts today, just a quick heads up that this is an interactive webinar. We want to hear from you what your thoughts are. Do you agree with everything? Do you have any questions? So any questions that you have, do enter them into the chat boxes on your screen, just at the bottom of your screens on your consoles, and make sure that you click that submit button as well to make sure that your notes come through to us. Also, any technical issues that you have, enter those into the same chat box, and a member of the CX Network team will get back to you right away to help you troubleshoot the issue that you're facing. All of the widgets that are on your screen in front of you can be resized and dragged around, so arrange those as to however you would like them to today. And all that's left is now for me to hand over to our experts. So we have Conversica's Head of Product Marketing, Sunny Dasgupta, and also we have Conversica's Chief Customer Officer, Brian Kaminsky. And it's a great pleasure to have you both with us today. Over to you guys.
Thank you, Janice. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, loud and clear.
Great. Hey, listen, welcome to the Your Time to Shine. This is a three-part webinar series, and today is the first webinar of this three-part series, which is where we're going to talk about maximizing the effectiveness of your customer success team. As Janice mentioned, my name is Sunny Dasgupta. I'm the Head of Product Marketing at Conversica. And while I'm relatively new to Conversica, I have been working in the space of customer experience and customer engagement for a while now, specifically focusing on how to turn your customers to your loyal advocates. And in today's economy, which we call the experience economy, of all the teams that are responsible for delivering customer engagement, the customer success team is at the very top of that list. And I've worked with some pretty well-known companies, which includes SAP, HPE, Micro Focus, VMware, Nike, etc. And my experience has been that most of the companies today are struggling with this challenge, how to maximize the effectiveness of their customer success team. And so this is a really timely and relevant topic. But today, I also have with me Brian Kaminsky, who is, as Janice mentioned, our Chief Customer Officer. Brian, do you want to take a moment and quickly introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Sunny. So my name is Brian Kaminsky. I'm the Chief Customer Officer at Conversica. Have the pleasure of working with our nearly 2,000 customers and working to help understand their business problems and make sure that we're leading them to great solutions with our product. I've been at the company for just under 4 years, so I've really seen a lot of evolution in the space, and really excited to talk to you today about some of the ways that our customers are using the solution.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Brian. And both Brian and I are looking forward to having an exciting conversation with you today. So as we navigate through today's topic, please ask questions, make comments in the question and answer box, and let's make this as interactive as possible. So let's get started. Unless you have been hiding under a rock, and even if you are, you probably know this, that we are going through the biggest human crisis of our generation. So let's begin with some of the realities that have impacted business. The last 12 months have been an economic roller coaster. Every business has been challenged with how quickly can you adjust and still drive business progress. And balancing that against where you are in your digital transformation journey, I mean, that has been a real challenge. And no matter where you are on your digital transformation journey, suddenly, and I'm sure you all would agree, the timeline has shifted. It suddenly accelerated to a rate none of us was ready for. Digital became your one and only channel for customer interaction. And as we come out of this pandemic, the next 12 months is going to be equally volatile. As business leaders, you are fine-tuning your playbook for digital channels, whether that is driving revenue through your sales and marketing channels, or in this case, working with your customer success leaders to retain and grow your customers. But specifically for customer success, what this means today is that how can you engage your customers with personalized and relevant messages and conversations to drive customer health, customer retention, and customer growth? And I'm sure you all are on the same page with me on this up to this point, but as we all know that it is easier said than done because there are challenges. So let's look at some of those challenges. So based on recent research findings and also through validation with, through our customers, here are some of the interesting stats that I wanted to share with you. And then we can talk about, where you and your team stand today in relationship to some of this data. On an average, a customer success manager manages over 50 customer accounts. On an average, a customer success rep is responsible for managing over 2 million in annual recurring revenue, ARR. What's wrong with this picture? Because when you are managing over 50 accounts, when you are responsible for over 2 million in ARR, you are trying to do too much with too few resources. And what this means is that you are not going to be able to engage with every customer. And as a result, customer experience and customer engagement is going to suffer. And lack of customer engagement, according to our research, is the #1 reason why customers leave a brand. And guess what? It only takes a single bad experience. 66% of B2B customers leave a brand after a single bad experience. So let's dig a little deeper and understand this, some of the root causes behind the numbers we looked at in the previous slide. So where the problem begins is that for each customer success manager, there is about 30 to 50 customers that they are managing. This is what makes it practically impossible for them to scale in any capacity. In addition to that, customer success is a business where there's a high employee turnover, and it also requires a certain level of skills to be successful. You can't pick this up overnight. So now you have high turnover and you don't have the budget to hire new headcount. That is exactly how the vicious cycle begins. And it's all downhill from there. So now think of the cascading effect of that. This results in a bad customer experience and lack of customer engagement. And that means forgetting to schedule regular review meetings or reminding customers that their renewals are coming up. These are the leading indicators of how things are going, which then leads to the lagging indicators: low product adoption, low ROI, low customer satisfaction. This is why we see high churn and lack of customer renewals. By the time the customer success team comes to know about it, most often it's too late. The relationship has been damaged, the opportunity for expansion is lost, and the revenue is compromised. The customer has left your brand and has gone to a competitor. So why is this something that, sorry, I went too far. There you go. So why is this something that a business should be concerned about? It's because it directly affects your business viability. When customers are leaving your brand because they are not getting the business outcomes that they're looking for and they were promised, your ARR is impacted. And in this difficult time, focusing on your existing customer to drive lean revenue is by far the lowest hanging fruit. Without that, your business viability is at risk. So now that we have established that this is an important problem for every business, I'm going to hand it over to Brian, who is going to talk about how you can approach and solve some of these problems. Brian, over to you.
Great. Thank you, Sunny. Really appreciate you setting up the challenge of the inconsistent customer experience and talking through the business realities that come as a result of that experience. So we've spent a lot of time thinking about how to solve this problem. And we initially began working to solve the problem in our own business. We were struggling with many of the challenges that Sunny had mentioned. And so we started to think, we have this great technology. We apply it in so many different ways. How can we apply our own technology to solve some of these problems? And so we took the approach of creating the customer success version of our technology to really help us think about a couple different areas. One, to make sure that we're really addressing improving that customer experience, making sure that we're driving product adoption, we're driving better utilization. We're making it simpler and easier to engage more consistently and in a higher quality manner with our customers. We then started to realize the impact that we could have around driving scale and efficiency. We could make it much easier for our customer success managers to scale themselves and to drive that customer health. And we always have worked really hard to make sure that we're balancing those two. Certainly, we could very, very easily scale our customer success members, but we want to make sure that we're doing it in a high quality manner such that the end customer doesn't suffer and there isn't a bad experience that comes into play. And then as we started to leverage the technology in our business in those two areas, we very quickly realized that there was a great opportunity to also start thinking about how we could support the renewal and expansion process and really make it easier for customers to do business with us, to engage with us. And then ultimately, we were able to take all three of these benefits and begin to roll them out to our customers to begin to deploy across their businesses and for their customer bases. So we started with our own core set of problems. We did a lot of learning. We did a lot of scaling and really made sure that scaling was high quality. And then we got to the point where we were able to deliver this to our customers and see significant value across their businesses. So let's start talking a little bit about how we approach this. So we do really think about augmenting the workforce. And the idea is not to replace the people on our teams. And the idea is not to move to a fully virtual scenario. The idea is to allow humans to do the things that they're great at and allow the technology and machines to do things that they're great at. So humans do a great job of building relationships. They're there for their customers. They're understanding business challenges. They're solving business problems. And the technology is doing a lot of the things that the humans aren't as great at. Consistency, follow-up, some things that sometimes either fall on the wayside or just in terms of overall prioritization tend to take a little bit of a backseat. So we do this in the means of delivering a virtual human that actually joins our customers' teams. And there's really four things that we're focusing on with our interactions and with our engagements. again, to make sure that we're really balancing that level of scale, but also balancing that with a really strong and great customer experience. And so first and foremost, our communications are always prompt. They're very timely. They're responding to the user in a very timely and quick way to make sure that they're staying very, very relevant. We also have a layer of persistence, and again, this is where humans tend to drop off after a couple of engagements if they don't get a response. And so we have the opportunity to drive multiple attempts. And as you'll see in a moment with a few examples, provide diversity to those attempts. So it's not as though we're pinging the customer over and over again with the same message. We're diversifying that message, making sure that we're able to capture their attention and their interest in a couple of different ways. We then also focus on making sure that the messages are personal. They're speaking directly to the individual. They're mentioning them by name. They're often mentioning the CSM by name. They're mentioning very specific activities. So they're not generic. They're not cookie cutter. They're very personalized and very meaningful to the specific individual. And that really drives a lot of the performance. So when you take the promptness, the persistence, and the personalization, and you combine that with delivering that in a manner that's easy for them to consume, you do a really nice job of being able to gather your customers' attention, have a meaningful engagement with them, but also make sure that it's worthwhile and beneficial for them. So one of the ways that we really start thinking about approaching this is we think about where customers are in their overall life cycle and their level of engagement with us. And then there's really the opportunity to think about how you want to engage with your end customer each step of the way. We want to make sure, again, that we're timely, we're personalized, but we're also making sure that the content is really relevant for them. So for new customers, as they're getting started, it's really about beginning to help them through their onboarding, help them understand what they need to do, make them available and aware of all the options that they have, and just really helping them to orient around a new piece of software, and really make it very comfortable for them to become focused within the platform. And then as customers move down the positive road of driving positive adoption, there's great opportunity for us to request ongoing conversations, to engage with them, to make sure that we're providing that just-in-time service as they're looking for opportunities, to make sure that we're messaging them. And over time, those successful outcomes lead to opportunities to talk about renewals, and smashing successes lead to opportunities to talk about doing more business together. If you then really think kind of down a little bit of the negative side of the road, because unfortunately not every software deployment, as we all know, goes exactly as we would all have it planned, we have the opportunity to manage customers in their risk stage and really making sure that we're engaging with them, we're trying to bring them back, we're understanding what their problems might be, and making sure that we're delivering directly to them. And then, of course, in an ongoing manner, we're looking to augment and replace some of those ongoing communications around, meeting cadence, new features, checking in with them to understand how their experience is going, what feedback they have for us. So we really think about it in terms of the customer continuum, where they are in their life cycle, what they most need from us, and really how to make sure that we can help our customers deliver that in the most precise and personalized manner. So let's dig in a little bit on kind of the three areas of value that we're focusing on. So first, we'll start with driving scale and efficiency. And as Sunny mentioned earlier, I've had the pleasure of leading a variety of customer success teams over the years, and there's never enough time in the day. There's never enough resources, even for the best and most accomplished CSMs out there. And so really helping them to make sure that they're scaling and being able to manage more consistently their customers. So starting with onboarding, that the customer is not completing specific steps or specific information, gathering some of that product feedback, understanding maybe when they're when their usage patterns are changing or dropping off, and having the ability to reach out and really drive some of those online referral requests. One of the nice things here is there's so much consistency in terms of what's done. So we're not having to rely on a single CSM to remember to do all these actions. And so the CSMs can free their time up to be more strategic with their customers. But as a customer success leader, you can also sleep soundly at night knowing that all these activities are happening because they're in a scheduled and automated and orchestrated manner. You're not relying on someone to remember to do something. So it's a really nice benefit for the CSM in terms of the simplification of their life. But there's also a lot of value for the broader CS program in terms of consistency and repeatability to that program. And you see here on the right, some of the engagements that take place with an end customer. And, as I mentioned, these are very personalized. These feel, very informative and beneficial messages, as opposed to, something that's very cookie cutter or doesn't feel customized or unique to me. So that's really how we think about the scale and efficiency element of things. We also talk about improving the customer experience, and certainly we want to make sure that customers are having a great experience with the solution. We want to be there to understand what their needs are and, make sure that we can gather feedback from them. So a lot of the specific tasks that we can deliver on in the customer experience are around, gathering feedback, announcing new product features and functionality, following up with customers to make sure that they're using those features and functionality, following up on NPS, and oftentimes, getting a deeper, the real why behind the why of NPS. If a customer cancels or if a customer gives a specific feedback, or as you launch a new feature or functionality, you really want the opportunity to understand what are customers seeing? What are they thinking? How is that working for them? So again, taking some of these responsibilities off of the plates of your scaled CSMs, but also making sure that it's done in a consistent, repeatable manner with consistent data capture, such that you can see the trends very, very nicely across your customer base. And then all of that evolves and leads really into ensuring the retention and expansion. So great opportunities here to upsell more of the solution, whether that's more seats, however you think about charging for your specific solution, driving the opportunity to talk about renewals, let customers know when they're at their usage or over their usage, really driving a consistent and repeatable approach here that's a good experience for the customers, but also really make sure that this is being done consistently and at scale. And we'll come back in the third series of our webinar and talk to you a little bit about some of the benefits that we see with the technology in terms of driving improved satisfaction for your CS teams, because certainly having some of these tools and technology to simplify their lives really makes things easier for the CSMs. And in a world where it's so difficult to attract and retain great talent, tools and technology can really go a long way to driving that value. So when we really drive in with customers on business outcomes, we're seeing higher scale, higher efficiency. So we're seeing customers who are able to manage larger books of business more successfully, drive more efficiency, scale their costs more across their business. Those are great opportunities for improvement within the customer success function. But again, it's also deliberately and very focused on making sure that it's not done at the expense of the experience of the customer. And so often investment in technology is driving great efficiencies for your business, but isn't necessarily driving the end outcomes that you're looking for. So it's really important to make sure that we're staying balanced. And so we're seeing customers have great success, expanding their customer base at scale. We're seeing customers have happier, more productive, more effective, and more scaled CSMs. And overall, we're seeing more efficiency in the CS programs that our customers are able to drive. So hopefully that gives you a good sense of some of the ways that we drive the technology. And at this point, I'll pass it back over to Sunny.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. So I hope as Brian was presenting, you got a sense of, how we help the customer success organization. You saw on his slides as he was talking about it, some of the conversations between customer and the intelligent virtual assistant or AI assistant. So what I would like to do now is give you a quick synopsis of who we are, who is Conversica, and how we help, because you got a flavor of that. Just wanted to kind of step back and give you the bigger picture. So conversational AI solutions like our Conversica AI assistants, what we are really good at is driving better engagement. And the importance of that is better customer engagement drives retention, drives revenue, right? Conversica AI assistants, we help organizations to attract, acquire, and grow customers at scale across the entire revenue cycle. Think of our AI assistants as digital team members in your team that would augment or work alongside your human business professionals. Acting as a digital team member, a customer, the AI assistant can engage in a human-like two-way conversation, which you saw when Brian was presenting, to determine the next best action at scale, whether that's on the pre-sale side, turning leads into sales meeting, building healthier pipeline. On the post-sale side, gauging interest to renew or expand product usage, politely but persistently collecting overdue payments. So we are considered a pioneer and a leader in this industry, in this category, having launched the first AI assistant over 12 years ago, and we have been growing ever since. AI assistants augment your team to do what people can't do or don't do well. Business people thrive when they can focus on strategic or creative initiatives, building trusted relationship with prospects and customers, and solving complex business problems and delivering value that closes the deal. What AI assistants are really good at, they are best suited to automate repetitive, routine tasks that your sales team or customer success team don't like to do or can't do at scale, like persistently and politely reaching out to prospects to see if they're interested in scheduling a meeting, or sending critical notifications about new product offering or new or renewal programs. And I'm sure you saw some of that as Brian was walking through, his part of the pitch. We also have the pleasure of serving some of the best B2B and B2C organizations across multiple industries. For example, like in technology, Oracle, Cisco, SAP in technology. We also support multiple very well-known telecom companies like T-Mobile, AT&T, to Lithia, which is one of our largest automotive groups. We also have over 25 professional sports teams like the New York Yankees, Dodgers, and also NHL, NBA teams, along with key higher education institutions and some of the top health and wellness companies in the US. So as you can see, many organizations today are benefiting from augmenting their workforce with our Conversica AI assistant, and we feel very fortunate having been able to serve these customers. So thank you for the opportunity to kind of walk you through how we help in maximizing the customer success organization and helping them scale to improve customer engagement and then retention and growth. I hope you found what we discussed today both relevant and helpful. And at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Janice to open it up for Q&A.
Excellent. Great stuff. Yeah, very, very fascinating insights there. I think you kicked it off with a key question that brands have been asking themselves for some time now, which is how can we engage with entire customer bases in a personalized way, feasibly. And of course, you need, there's no other way. You need to augment your teams with intelligent systems. So let's keep the conversation going. Thanks to those of you that have already entered in your questions. Please do enter in anything else, any other comments, thoughts, any other queries about what we've looked at today. Enter those into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we'll get to as many questions as we can in the time that we've got today. So one question that we had filter in from Sophie is around one of the points that you made early on in your presentation. I think it was that, that the average customer success manager manages over 50 accounts. So Sophie's question here is, how many accounts should a CSM manage?
Yeah, it's a fascinating question. You know, I've led customer success at a couple different organizations, and it's certainly a key question. Kind of give a bit of parameters. You know, the fewest that I've seen is 3, and the highest I've seen is you know, close to 150. And you know, many organizations are now moving to more of a digital CSM approach, where it's a bit more of a pooled approach, a bit of a queue. And, you know, different CSMs are fielding opportunities from different customers. So in essence, the binary relationship of customer to CSM is challenged and kind of disrupted to more of a queue. But to dig in a little bit, it really depends on a couple different factors. Number one, it really depends on the level of automation that you have to support your CSMs. How difficult or easy is it for them to support a specific customer? How much, you know, what's the level of engagement do you want them to have? Do you want them to speak to the customer every day? Do you want them to speak to the customer every month? And some of that is really trying to optimize kind of the optimal mix of, you know, what's ideal for the customer and what's ideal for the organization, in a manner that's going to be most effective, right? Because you can certainly, you know, have a very low ratio and provide, you know, off the charts amazing support and delivery, but that may be challenging from a financial perspective, and vice versa. You can do what's great for your organization, but if you're not engaging your customers and they're not getting value from the solution, they're going to leave, and therefore, you know, the financial implications are going to be significant. The way I approach it is really thinking about what is it that the customer needs from your business, and what of that needs to be or can be automated with things like the help center, knowledge-based content, you know, online learning video and content. And then what is it that they really benefit from the direct engagement with a human, the more strategic elements, the more business problem solving. And I sort of use that to map out, you know, what is the ideal scenario. Size fits all, but I think there's a few things to sort of think through there as you're trying to determine, you know, what is the optimal level for your business. And, you know, the last point I'll say is most businesses find that it's not a one size fits all answer. It varies by the type of customer. And so many organizations, including ourselves, are segmenting customers according to their needs so that we can make sure that we have the right level of service and the right type of service to best meet what the customer's looking for.
And I'm sure that with that, you would test and learn to see where that sort of sweet spot lies.
Absolutely. Testing and learning in terms of what's best for your customer, what's best for your team. And of course, you've got to be thinking about your CSMs as well, because they'll tell you very quickly whether the customer ratios are too high or too low. Yeah. And, you know, they're a great source of truth. And I also find customer feedback to be incredibly helpful there as well. You know, and it's not always more. Some customers will say in their feedback, you know, I'd like a little bit more automation. And so a lot of it, I think, is really just having the right level of items there. Some customers would love to pick up the phone and have a chat with somebody. Some would love to just have some documentation to be able to read. And it does vary a little bit, you know, by who your buyer and who your end user is as well, and kind of, you know, what is the nature of how they like to consume information.
Absolutely. And I think it's kind of leading into a conversation that I had with a CX folk at an insurance firm, and they said they looked at their customer feedback, and one of the key bits of feedback which was flagged at the point of churn was that customers were saying, well, you only engage with me when you want more money from me. When it's, hey, it's renewal time, remember us, you've got that policy that you kind of forgot about, you need to renew it. And I think the power of those post-sale checkpoints and those engagement points have so much weight there. And I think, as you were mentioning, you can't put that all on customer success managers. And that's where the real sort of strength of AI comes in, because you're leaning on that strength, is that, you know, the sort of the repetitive consistency, getting out that human error in, checking in. Have you heard about this feature that's part of your policy or your product you've got with us? How are things going? Do you need any support? Have you seen our resources that can help you with getting the most out of your subscription with us, whatever it may be? So I think there's a lot of scope and power in what we're looking at today, for sure.
Yeah, the consistency element is so crucial to be able to maintain that consistency and you know, not have mixed messages coming from different different avenues, right? To be really consistent. And so, yeah, that's a great point.
Definitely. And one question that we've just had come in here, which kind of leads into the consistency side of things, is in regards to onboarding time. So what would you guys say is the average onboarding time for the sort of tech we've been looking at today?
Yeah, so I think about onboarding in two ways. First, I think about it in terms of the completion of the implementation, which really just means you have a product to use. And so we sort of think about that in terms of implementation time. And so, you know, most of our customers are implemented and live using the solution in just under 2 weeks. Some go much faster. You know, sometimes there's a little bit of red tape with IT or some other organizations. None of us have ever experienced that, but it does occasionally happen. And so they maybe take a week or so longer, but the average is just under 2 weeks in terms of using the product. And then customers typically begin their messaging by the third week. So typically there's an engagement there. There's training. We have an online learning center, and customers are feeling comfortable to begin using the product. And then they're starting to see the first dividends, the first individuals who are engaging back in about the 4 week mark. So we sort of have that kind of 2, 3, 4 week element that comes into play. And then, you know, we typically are in an onboarding stage for kind of the remaining 60 days. So we typically look at a customer as being implemented and out of onboarding, which means they're a real strong user of the product. They're generating their own campaigns. They're very comfortable and using the product. Certainly by the end of 90 days, many customers get there more quickly. But really that 90-day mark is kind of when most customers are really ready to kind of fly on their own.
And anything to add on that, Sunny? Any tips for onboarding, I guess?
No, I mean, I think Brian covered it really well. Just, you know, I think, yeah, that's nothing else to add. I'm looking at another question that I'm seeing here in regards to the IVA. Yeah. IVA, is the name selection automated? Who determines the name to be used? I think that's a fun question to answer. Brian, maybe I could start and then you could provide. Yeah, so. Sure. So the name selection is not automated. You have the customers have the flexibility to select the names that is right and appropriate for what they're doing, the market they're in. So for example, if you are in the North American market, you could, you know, most of the names that are selected are suitable for that market. But if you're like, we have customers that are using it for the Asian market, and the IVA names are suitable for the Asian markets, like very local names that would resonate with their customers. And similarly, I think we see also an industry variation. I remember one of our customers, used the name IVA, which is AIVA, which is, I love that because it's IVA, Intelligent Virtual Assistant, and AI combined. We see people getting very creative depending upon which industry they're in, what's going to resonate with the audience. So they have complete flexibility to make, create custom names that's right for them. Brian, anything I missed?
No, I think this is just an area that customers tend to have a lot of fun with. So, they're often naming their IVAs. They're often, doing it as a group, kind of getting together. When we were all, going to a physical workplace, many of our customers would set up a cubicle for their intelligent virtual assistant. They decorate it. A lot of customers tend to have fun with the naming and the inclusion of their virtual human alongside of their human. So it's an area that they do have a lot of experience with. But this is a very flexible part of the platform and the technology to enable customers to name their IVAs in the manner that they most see fit.
Great. So there's that inbuilt flexibility to get creative and make it your own, which is a good thing for sure. So we've got time for, I'd say, a couple more questions. So if you've got anything else on your mind, make the most of having our experts with us today. Shoot your questions across. If we don't manage to get to your question by the end of the Q&A section today, there is an availability for us to get an answer to you after the session. So don't let time be a hindrance to you. Do make sure you send over your questions and click that all-important submit button. So another question that we've had filter through here is in regards to integrations. So I know that when I chat to a lot of brands and their CX managers, and integration is a key part. So looking at your existing tech stack, and then how is that going to be? Is that going to sort of connect and be interoperable with anything new that gets overlaid? So what are some of the integrations that you guys offer out of the box?
So the most common integrations that we see used across the platform, probably won't surprise anyone. A very high usage of Salesforce, Pardot, Eloqua, as well as Marketo, probably some of the key systems. Some of our customers tend to, depending upon how they're using the product, that tends to sometimes drive the system. So oftentimes, if customers are using Conversica for, say, the top of the funnel, more of those types of activities, that tends to live in more of a marketing automation system. With what we're talking about today, with customer success, that almost exclusively lives in a CRM. So Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics, come into play quite a good bit, and then some of our customers, don't maybe have a homegrown system, and so we do have a UI-based way for them to enter their content into Conversica as well. So for those that don't have a CRM or are between CRMs or are frustrated with their CRM, they choose to use a different manner.
Yeah. And also, we also integrate with some of the industry-specific solutions. Like, for example, for automotive industry, we integrate with like some of the industry-specific CRM solutions as well.
Great. So I think we've got time for one more question. So we'll go for this one that's looking at common requests that CSMs receive. So in your experience, what are the most common requests that CSMs receive and how to best solve them? There's also an element of this question which is tapping into how to say no to certain requests that are maybe difficult to meet or develop a solution for.
Yeah, it's a great question. The most common problems that we're solving today really fall, around some of the scale components. So the engagement of the customer to set up a meeting or a discussion, or to follow up on either a usage of a feature or a lack of usage of a feature, tend to be the areas that are most used. The upsell piece has also become very popular. It was especially popular in some of the challenges that we saw last year, with many of our customers having to do more with less. And so the opportunity to drive revenue within the customer base in an automated way was really beneficial. In terms of things that we're trying to develop, we're really thinking about what is the core business problem that it solves, and how do we make the CSMs better at their job. So we're not trying to take away CSMs, and so when we get requests from customers, that's often the filter that we're thinking about is, what's the business problem this is solving? How's it going to scale? How are we able to engage? And we really think about, is this really something that is beneficial of technology and automation and scale, or is it kind of creeping into a little bit more of the relationship side or the human side? And so that's often our kind of North Star in terms of, what we want to focus on solving, or what we think isn't a great solution for our technology.
Great. And I know I said that was going to be the last question, but we've just had one more sneak in, and it's too good for us to miss, I'm afraid. So I'll read out the whole comment here, because I think it really speaks to what I've seen a lot within the market in terms of buy-in and culture change that's needed to really unlock the next stage in terms of driving customer success. So we've got Kimberly here, and she's noted that in regards to the adoption of new automation techniques, there's a lack of understanding in her organization. So she's spending a lot of time educating customer success teams. Also, risk management needs to evolve to support that new dynamic. So Kimberly wants to know if you guys have any tips on how to work with executive teams and wider business, I guess, to help them understand the value of automation and the return on investment with this sort of tech.
Sure, I'm happy to get started. So, I think one of the areas that often comes up underneath of risk management is the notion of becoming comfortable with having non-humans engaging with your precious customers. And as someone who is really passionate about the space, given what I do, it's very, very relatable for me. I want to make sure that the customers are having a great experience. I don't want to put them into a scenario where they feel like they're not being well taken care of. But I want to be able to balance how we do that. And so, I think the first element is really understanding, how the technology is going to engage with the end customer. Making sure that it's not going to, misrepresent the brand or say things that might offend the customer. That's often where people start. And so, there's a lot of, data that we've gathered. We've got, over 1 billion interactions on our platform. And so, we have the back and forth down to the point where we can provide a good experience. But that's typically where things start. And then it kind of evolves into, well, how do we balance this automation? And one thing that I see very, very often is it sometimes a fear of kind of rejection of the technology or rejection of the automation via the CSMs. And customers will sometimes call me up and say, we were a little nervous about how we were talking to the CSMs about how we were going to, add technology to make things better for them. And it was an overwhelming success. They were extremely excited. They wanted to help. Not surprisingly, they're not eager to do some of those tasks that we're asking them to do. So I think it's really thinking about how to position this to the organization in terms of, the value of the automation. And then when I think about the ROI, I really think about the ROI in terms of being able to service more revenue in a more cost-effective manner. And we have, tools and calculators that we've built to be able to think about that based on experience that we've had with existing customers. And I think it's also about, balancing the value that you're able to gather from the customer. So the ROI pieces really come into play in terms of additional revenue from the customer base. And in terms of, better engagement, and then in terms of a more efficient delivery. So hopefully that's helpful in terms of thinking about the automation and the ROI and kind of managing some of those initial risks or maybe misperceptions that might come up with the organization.
Great. And I think another cool move also could be to share this webinar with your colleagues. So we've had a lot of stats and a lot of good intel and, exploration of this tech and the availability and different sort of metrics that could be useful. So share this with your colleagues. We'll be able to give you access to this on demand shortly after we close the presentation today. So you'll be able to rewatch at your own leisure and, again, share with any colleagues that you have. So that's all that we've got time for today. It's been a jam-packed session. As I just mentioned, we'll share this on demand, so you guys will be able to share with any colleagues or rewatch at your own leisure. So the next installment of this Your Time to Shine series will be next week on the 18th of March, and it will be broadcast at 12 p.m. Central Time, and that's going to be diving into the element of fighting customer churn a little bit more and looking at the different tips and tricks that you guys can be deploying to make sure that you guys are retaining customers as well as you can, and making sure that you're sort of maximizing customer lifetime values as well.
Yeah, and
so with that, go ahead.
And for that session, just to kind of give a little bit of teaser, for that session we would have two practitioners from one of our customer, Oracle, who would talk about some of these tips and tricks. So that'd be a great session to join, to ask questions and see how they are, using this solution to get tremendous value today.
Yeah, absolutely. So it'll be really good to kind of get into the mindset of somebody who's been there, they rolled out this tech, they're using it, they're getting value from it. So do make sure that you pop that in your diaries. We'll give you some reminders over email as well, but do make sure you attend that. And if you attend live, then you get to get your own questions answered. So do make sure that you make time for that. All right. Okay, so thanks so much for taking the time to tune into our webinar today. To our audience members, and obviously a big thank you to our experts today, Sunny and Brian. And that concludes today's webinar.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Janice.